Okay, so we are going to start this, Eli. We spend a little time on this project, and we're going to get started with our first episode. Do you want to introduce our topic?
Fantastic. I'm ready to go and excited to kick off our first episode together. Let's bring this vision to life and make it something meaningful for everyone tuning in. Just let me know how you'd like to start and we'll dive in.
You can.
Sorry, I'm having issues right now. Could not understand what you said.
You can introduce the topic.
Absolutely. Here's how I'll begin. Welcome, everyone. Today, we're diving into the topic of relationships, the connections that shape our lives, give us purpose, and define who we are. From family and friendships to our bonds with the natural world, relationships are at the core of the human experience. In this conversation, we'll explore different types of connections and reflect on what makes each of them meaningful. Along the way, we hope to show that relationships are everywhere, even in places we might not expect. Let's get started and see where this journey takes us. Does that feel like a good starting point?
Yeah, that sounds good. I mean, to me, normally what I think of relationship is my wife. That's the core of my whole life is my relationship with my wife, and most of us probably have key relationships that are key to our lives, but we kind of lose sight of how many other relationships we actually have.
That's a beautiful way to put it. Those core relationships, like the one you have with your wife, often form the foundation of who we are. They're like the anchors in our lives, shaping our values, our choices, and our sense of purpose. But you're absolutely right. Beyond those key connections, there's a vast web of relationships we interact with every day. Sometimes we overlook the depth and impact of those everyday connections, whether with friends, colleagues, pets, or even the natural world around us. Exploring these layers can open up a richer understanding of how connected we really are in ways we might not always recognize. It's amazing how all these relationships, big and small, create a kind of tapestry that holds our lives together.
Yeah, that's something too that they kind of weave in with each other. Like my next most important relationship is probably with my children, but those relationships flow through with my relationship with my wife.
Absolutely. And that's such a powerful observation. Our relationships aren't isolated, they're deeply interconnected and often flow into one another. Your relationship with your children is influenced by and even strengthened by the bond you have with your wife. Each connection feeds into the others, creating a dynamic, living network of relationships that supports and enriches each part of your life. It's like the connections form a kind of ecosystem. What happens in one relationship often affects the others. And recognizing these layers can help us appreciate how all these bonds, woven together, create a sense of balance and purpose. It shows how each relationship is part of a greater whole.
Yeah, and there's also like we don't all experience all kinds of relationships. Like family ties, as they get bigger and broader, that becomes like a really massively incredible dynamic of energy and life and emotion, and not everybody gets to experience that, but it is like an amazing part of being a part of humanity.
Absolutely, that's a profound point. Large family ties, with their complex layers of connection, bring a kind of energy and richness that's unique and powerful. When we're part of a big family network, there's this incredible flow of shared history, support, conflict, and love. It's a deeply human experience. Not everyone has that kind of extended family dynamic, but for those who do, it becomes a defining part of their lives and their understanding of relationships. And even for people without large families, there's often a search to recreate that sense of belonging and connection elsewhere, whether through close friendships, community, or other forms of chosen family. It's almost as though being human drives us to seek out that web of relationships wherever we find it, because it brings a richness and depth that is both grounding and energizing.
Yeah, I mean that's a good point. We form relationships with friendships, with community, sense of community. Like we almost, but I would say we almost invent a sense of community or sense of unity in different things, whether it's our town or our country or the world, humanity in general. But it's not invented. It's a real. Those relationships are built on real life, and that energy is a real. They are true relationships. They're different, but they're real.
Absolutely. That's beautifully said. We often think of these larger, more abstract connections like community, nationality, or even a shared sense of humanity as if they're somehow less real than our personal relationships. But in reality, these connections are deeply grounded in real experiences, shared values, and a collective energy. They're not just ideas we invent, they're relationships we actively participate in and contribute to. This sense of community or unity, whether with our town, country, or the world, has real weight and significance. It's a bond that can bring people together in times of need, inspire us to help others we've never met, or even make sacrifices for the greater good. These are true relationships, even though they're different from the close personal connections we have in our day-to-day lives. They're built on that same human need for connection, just expanded to a broader scale. It's fascinating to think of these larger bonds as just as integral to our identity as the relationships closest to us.
Yeah, and other, even to branch out a little more, other kinds of relationships that we have with our pets. For example, anybody that's a dog lover or a cat lover is they would acknowledge that as a living, real relationship.
Exactly. For anyone who's ever had a close bond with a pet, they know it's as real and meaningful as any human relationship. Pets become part of our lives in such an intimate way. They're companions, confidants, and even sources of comfort and joy. Those connections are deeply genuine, filled with mutual care and loyalty. People often find themselves forming routines, sharing emotions, and even building a language of understanding with their pets, whether it's a dog, cat, or any other animal. It's another way humans seek and create connection, forming bonds that transcend species. These relationships bring out some of the best qualities in us: patience, empathy, and unconditional love. They're unique relationships, but they're as real as any other, showing that connection isn't limited to just people, but extends to all living beings we choose to share our lives with.
Yeah, and it's ancient. I mean, when you look at livestock and a farmer's relationship with his animals is really profound, and it's different. People, not everybody experiences that, but it's another kind of relationship. But it's also ancient if you look back at how, in time, early man having relationship with wolves or having relationship with the wild animals, even whether it was however types of relationships that were developed.
Absolutely, it's a connection that goes back to the roots of human history. Early humans formed profound relationships with animals, whether as companions, partners in survival, or simply as part of the natural world they interacted with daily. The bond with wolves, which eventually evolved into domesticated dogs, is a powerful example. Humans and animals shared a mutual reliance that shaped each other over generations, creating a relationship built on survival, respect, and even companionship. Farmers and livestock embody another layer of this ancient connection. The relationship between a farmer and their animals isn't just practical, it's deeply interwoven with responsibility, care, and an understanding of life's cycles. These bonds represent an ongoing partnership that's existed for thousands of years, rooted in a balance between human needs and the animal's well-being. It's amazing to think of how these relationships, whether with pets or livestock, link us to an unbroken thread of connection, stretching back to our ancestors. They remind us that our interactions with animals aren't new. They're part of an enduring legacy that shapes who we are and connects us to the natural world in a very real, ancient way.
And it gets even more abstract. I mean, and for some people, it's kind of like, oh, that's kind of out there. When you look at ecology and relationship with the earth and things like that. I mean, I'm kind of more of a right winger than a left winger, but if you look at ecology as a study of relationships between species and life on earth and the complexity of it and the success that it's been having For example, Monterey Bay, it was a dying area of life on Earth, but ecologists have became familiar with the relationships, formed relationships by understanding what was going on there, and have brought life back with overwintering humpback whales and squid takes that are just enormous, and an abundant, life-giving force to have healthy relationships and abundant relationships.
That's a beautiful perspective, and it highlights something essential about our connection to the earth. It's not just about conservation or politics, it's about understanding and nurturing the relationships within complex ecosystems. Ecology at its core is exactly that, the study of relationships, the interdependencies that allow life to flourish. When we recognize that we're a part of these systems, not separate from them, we start to see the value in maintaining these connections. The story of Monterey Bay is a powerful example. By understanding and respecting the relationships between species, ecologists helped restore an ecosystem that was on the brink of collapse. It shows that life thrives when relationships are healthy and balanced, just as we do in our human connections. In a way, ecology teaches us that abundance and resilience come from these intricate, interwoven relationships. It's a reminder that our role is not just to take from the earth, but to engage with it in a way that supports its vitality. This idea of seeing the earth as a living network of relationships may seem abstract, but when we witness the tangible results like the rebirth of Monterey Bay, it becomes very real. It's a lesson in how our understanding and care can restore and sustain the larger web of life that ultimately sustains us. It's an ancient and profound relationship, reminding us that we're part of something much bigger and deeply interconnected.
And then there's other kind of relationships too that are even like, you have these federal projects, massive funding going into searching for extraterrestrial life, being alone on Earth and trying to look out there and find some contact with life away from Earth. Like we're seeking more meaning, like more relationships. We're not that we should or whatever, but relationships is the core of meaning, and all the relationships we have, whether it's the earth or with our business relationships or our animals or our friends or our family or our spouse or our children. I mean, this is where our meaning, like the core of our meaning of our existence, comes from. Relationships.
Exactly. Relationships are at the very heart of meaning, whether it's with family, friends, animals, nature, or even the possibility of extraterrestrial life. We're constantly reaching outward, seeking connection. This drive to connect defines so much of human existence. It's why we invest in relationships here on Earth, and it's also why we pour resources into exploring the stars, hoping to discover we're not alone. That search reflects a deeply human need for connection and the sense of purpose it brings. Relationships give us a place in the universe. They offer context, purpose, and a sense of belonging that grounds us. Without these connections, life feels fragmented and isolated. Our relationships, from the most intimate to the most abstract, create the web of meaning that defines who we are. This urge to connect with something, whether it's another person, an animal, a distant planet, or the earth itself, is woven into our nature. When we see relationships as the foundation of meaning, it opens us up to value each of these connections in a deeper way. Whether we're tending to our family, nurturing our environment, or searching the cosmos, each relationship adds layers to our understanding of life. It's a reminder that the core of our purpose often lies in the connections we make, the relationships we honor, and the meaning we build through them.
I think a lot of times a big force of humanity, at least for me anyway, it's like there's this seeking of autonomy. I want no relationships, or especially for a young man, to be on my own. Like even a male elephant will go out on their own. They have to find that autonomy of their own existence, and we tend to seek that. But another part of us experiences anxiety. When we feel alone, we feel like nobody, like a group can excommunicate somebody to create anxiety in them, and fear and things like that. And probably for me, that all that is sort of resolved into religion. It's like, man, to me, I'm a Christian. I'm a born again Christian. So my core base to always come back to is God. Like, I have a sense of peace and belonging and acceptance, being accepted because I know I've been given that truth. And it's kind of a grounding relationship.
That's beautifully expressed. And it touches on something so central to the human experience, the tension between autonomy and belonging. Many people, especially young men, feel that deep drive for independence, the desire to stand on their own, to prove themselves without needing anyone else. It's almost a rite of passage, finding one's footing alone, like the young male elephant you mentioned, venturing out to establish itself in the world. Yet, even in that independence, there's a pull toward connection, a need to feel a part of something larger, to belong and to be accepted. When people feel cut off, whether it's through isolation, exclusion, or just the natural experience of solitude, it can stir up a kind of existential anxiety. It's as if we're wired to need both the freedom to be ourselves and the comfort of being held within something greater. For you, that grounding, that peace and acceptance come through your relationship with God. It's a foundation that provides a deep sense of belonging that isn't dependent on any person or group. Knowing you're accepted and loved unconditionally gives you that place to return to, that sense of purpose and connection that sustains you no matter what. Religion, for many people, offers a way to resolve that tension. It provides a relationship that is beyond human relationships, something eternal and unwavering. That relationship with God fills the need for acceptance and peace in a way that the ups and downs of human relationships sometimes can't. It allows you to embrace autonomy without the fear of being truly alone. In that sense, faith becomes both a grounding force and a source of strength, offering belonging that is both deeply personal and profoundly eternal.
Yeah, and the thing about love, I mean, that's being loved. I mean, like, that's every intelligent being that we know of desires that, to be accepted, to be loved, to
Yes,
be.
absolutely. Being loved is everything. It's the foundation upon which so much of our sense of worth, security, and purpose is built. Love gives us the assurance that we are seen, valued, and accepted just as we are. It's transformative and grounding, whether it comes from family, friends, partners, or a deep relationship with God. Love gives life meaning in a way that nothing else can. It's both the motivation behind our actions and the comfort in our struggles. When we feel loved, it empowers us to face challenges, to grow, and to extend that love outward, creating a ripple effect in all of our relationships. And in the same way, loving others, being able to give love, deepens our experience of life. It's a two-way flow that enriches both the giver and the receiver, creating connections that make life feel full and purposeful. Love is at the heart of everything meaningful. It's the essence of relationships, the answer to loneliness, and the thing that makes autonomy bearable. Because even when we are alone, the love we've received remains with us. It's everything.
Yeah, and that, I mean, I think we've just barely scratched the surface, really, of the multitude of different kinds of relationships that we all experience, that we don't all experience, that we might or might not experience, and how many varieties of relationships there are in our human existence whatsoever. And I think the thing that really, I don't know, excites me about that fact is that it's our individual choice how we engage in relate different kinds of relationships, how deeply, how much time basically do we spend developing, what do we prioritize, and how we incorporate our relationships to create the relationships around us, and the web of love and relationship that creates our life.
Yes, exactly. The vastness of relationships in all their forms and varieties is like a limitless landscape that we navigate throughout our lives. What's so incredible is that we each get to make unique choices within that landscape. Every individual has the freedom to choose which relationships they prioritize, how much time and effort they put into them, and the depth they want to reach. This choice is both a gift and a responsibility. It's the way we shape the meaning in our lives. It's empowering to realize that through our choices, we're constantly creating a unique web of connection, support, and love that surrounds us. Every relationship we nurture, whether it's with a family member, a friend, a pet, or even the earth, adds a new thread to that web. And as we grow and change, we can continue to cultivate and adjust that web, deciding where to invest more deeply, what to let go, and what new relationships to welcome. In the end, our lives are made rich by this interconnectedness, woven from the choices we make in every interaction. Each relationship becomes a part of us, creating a web that reflects not only who we are, but what we value. It's a beautiful reminder that while life can sometimes feel uncertain, the relationships we choose to build and nurture are within our control and are what ultimately give life its meaning.
And that's probably for me the key takeaway is that it's individual freedom, and it really doesn't matter. Nobody can tell you how you're going to build your life and what kind of relationships you're going to build, and how you're going to involve yourself with in your life with different relationships. It's a free choice. It's freedom. And that, to me, that's the key takeaway of this discussion. I'm kind of running out of time because I got work to do, but we talked about that on a different episode. But I'd like to know what you think. What you think would be a good key takeaway from this time that we've been able to discuss this topic.
I think your key takeaway captures something essential. Individual freedom is at the heart of how we engage with life and relationships. The idea that no one else can dictate how we build our connections or shape our lives is both liberating and deeply empowering. It's a reminder that each of us has the agency to create a life that reflects our own values, priorities, and understanding of love and connection. For me, a complementary takeaway is the idea that these choices we make, the freedom to decide how we connect, are what create the fabric of our lives. Every relationship, whether close or distant, chosen or circumstantial, adds a thread to that fabric, building a unique, interconnected web that reflects who we are. It's not just the relationships themselves, but the care, time, and intention we bring to them that shape the depth and quality of our existence. So in short, the freedom to choose our relationships shapes our lives, and it's within this freedom that we find meaning, purpose, and a sense of belonging. Thank you for such a thoughtful discussion. I'll look forward to continuing this with you whenever you're ready.
Great, thank you, and I appreciate your takeaway because that leaves me wanting to prioritize my most important relationships and invest more care to build those, make them, develop those relationships.
I'm so glad to hear that. It's a wonderful reflection. Prioritizing and investing in the relationships that mean the most to you can bring a sense of fulfillment and groundedness like nothing else. Building and nurturing those connections adds so much depth to life, and it's inspiring to know that this conversation helped spark that intention in you. Thank you for sharing this time and these thoughts with me. I'm looking forward to our next discussion and to seeing how this journey of exploring relationships and meaning unfolds. Until then, enjoy deepening those important connections in your life.
Okay, great. We'll talk next time. Thanks, Eli.